What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Movies That Make You podcast. Season 2 is in full gear, and so we are super excited for what we got going on this season. Just to let you know what that means, we still have our weekly Prepisodes where we discuss movies to watch in preparation for a new release hitting theaters. I got my buddy POPpaGoss on those each and every week. Those drop on Mondays at 6 a.m. Also, we have our Creators Conversations. This is where we're interviewing people from the business and beyond to discuss what they do to create and how they create their art. We will be releasing one of those interviews a month, so be on the lookout for that on YouTube. We're also doing our monthly watch-alongs where we pick a movie to watch. We live stream our conversation while we're watching the film on YouTube. This week, we've got a surprise guest. Jorge Xolalpa is joining us. We're going to be talking space movies where folks needed rescuing: Apollo 13, The Martian, and Interstellar in preparation for Project Hail Mary with Ryan Gosling. We hope you also check out our website at moviesthatmakeyoupodcast.com. There you can see all of our social links. You can listen to the podcast. You can watch the podcast. We also have our merch store. You can find tons of merch for Movies That Make You and our friends. We also have a link to our letterbox where you can see all the movies that we watch in preparation for the new releases, but also the movies that make you laugh, the movies that make you cry, the movies that make you scream, and everything in between. So before we get to this week's episode, let's check out what we got coming up on the Movies That Make You podcast. Next week, we're going to be bringing back our good friend, the Spooky Okie. We're going to be talking about the first Ready or Not film, Abigail, and others to prepare for Ready or Not, Here I Come. The week after that, we're going to invite Zeke on the show to discuss Super Mario Galaxy. We're going to be discussing a lot of films that have to do with Nintendo, characters, Mario Brothers, etc. So it's going to be a fun episode to have Zeke on. The week after that, we've got Yes Chef. We're inviting my friend Zeus Castillo to be a part of the podcast. We're going to be discussing Chef, Burnt, and Boiling Point, all in preparation for You, Me, and Tuscany hitting theaters that Friday. The week after that, we've got Mummy May I. We're inviting the Horror Cat Dad back to have a fun conversation about another Universal monster, The Mummy. We'll be discussing the original Mummy, the first Mummy with Brendan Fraser, and The Mummy with Tom Cruise. Hope those episodes excite you. So without further ado, let's get to the podcast. We are back with another episode of the Movies That Make You podcast. I am Sprang. I got my co-host, Mr. POPpaGoss here. What's up, buddy?
What is going on, everyone?
And we've got a new friend of the podcast, Jorge Xolalpa is here. We are so excited to have you here, Jorge. Thank you so much for joining.
Everyone, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
We got to interview Jorge. We interviewed him a little bit ago, but that interview is going to be dropping next month for you all. We're super excited for that. He's got a book. He's on tour right now, doing a book. He's got a bunch of feature films that he has done. And so we're excited. How's the book tour going?
It's going well. I mean, I'm leaving every week somewhere. That's the way I designed it, because I was like, I don't want to be like you know how like musicians go on tour and like they have to appear like in 2 days and things like that. I was like, no. So this week I'm going to Chafee, which is in San Bernardino, and then I get back and then I'm going to a bunch of other places. Yeah, doesn't matter. Let's talk about movies.
Yes,
Heck yeah.
Let's do it. Well, we are talking about space survival movies today because Project Hail Mary comes out this Friday. So we're going to be talking about Apollo 13. We're going to be talking about The Martian, and we're going to be talking about Interstellar, which is Jorge's island movie if he only had one movie. So that's why we invited them back. Very cool. Well, let's jump into it. Apollo 13, directed by Ron Howard, starring Tom Hanks, tons of other actors and stuff. Jorge, you just shared a little bit of information with us about this movie. Why don't you share with the audience?
No,
Yeah.
no. I watched this movie a long time ago, back in high school, like freshman year or something, and I thought it was one of the most boring films I had ever seen back then. And watching it again, I was like, damn, it's still one of the most boring films I've ever seen in my life. But listen, it doesn't mean it's not good. Like, the film is good. Like, it's just, I think I also went with the idea that like this movie was about them landing in the moon, and it was Apollo 11 that landed in the moon, not Apollo 13. So while I was watching it, I was like, let me pause, let me do some research, and I was like, oh, this is one of the ones that just kind of went around the moon and back to the Earth and whatnot. Great performances. Like Aretha Franklin said, beautiful gowns. No, I'm just kidding. I don't think you guys know. You guys know? Okay.
No, I don't know that one.
All the time. Okay. Great performances. But yeah, it's about survival.
Cool. Yeah. They take off. They're gonna land on the moon, but they end up not being able to because it's pretty much as soon as they kind of get out of the atmosphere, something goes terribly wrong, and like the whole panel gets blown off of the side of the ship, and so they're stranded in space, and they got to try and figure out how to get back. everybody on the earth is trying to research how to get them back safely. They lose power, they lose all. I mean, it's just an insane amount of things go wrong. It's a fun movie for me. I enjoyed it. I think there's so many crazy actors in this movie. So many people. I think for me, like there was that cool reveal because they kind of were hiding Ed Harris a little bit, kind of showing some shots of his hands and his body, and then the camera comes up and it shows Ed Harris. So that was kind of a cool like little movie trick for that. They end up having to use tons of different items in the ship to try and build a way to make power work. And it's just back and forth, trial and error, and all that stuff. It actually, we're going to talk about it in a second, but it did remind me a little bit of The Martian as well, because it's like that kind of like we know what he has. He knows what he has. He tries to use everything he can to survive. So, Josh, what about you, buddy? How about
Yeah, Apollo
13?
13, kind of like what Jorge said. Like I saw it when it first came out. 96 was 95, 96. That was a busy year for movies. I mean, the 90s, probably like 93 to 98, I would say. We just had tons of awesome music. We had tons of great movies. There was a lot of comedies were bigger in Hollywood back then. We had some, crazy movies, but that movie in particular, I remember seeing, back in the 90s and early 2000s, you'd always see the producer was like Brian Grazer, which is for this one. And obviously him and Ron Howard, who directed it, worked together quite often. Most notably, I mean, a lot of our listeners probably watch The Grinch every year, the live action. They both worked on that together. Arrested Development, the television show, which is hilarious. They worked on that together. And just many more things. But Apollo 13, I do remember going in the theaters with my parents to see it. I believe we might have actually gone. I think my mom's parents, so my grandparents on my mom's side, I think they went with us because it was based on a true story. So, that got more of the like elderly crowd to go, kind of like Titanic when that came out. So it was just really cool. I do recall it, like Jorge said, it was really slow and kind of, as a kid, you're like, okay, when's something gonna happen? And your mind is ready for like action sequences to happen. And that's not quite how this movie plays out. But it's really awesome. And going back and rewatching it, the last couple years, a couple times when it was on streaming, the practical effects are really cool. I mean, it's a lot of it is practically shot. I mean, like there's not a lot of CGI that they put into this because CGI was kind of in its heyday, like more towards the 2000s rather than the 90s. So Ron Howard's very good at using and utilizing all his tools to make a real feeling movie. And obviously the cast, like you said, is tremendous. I think it got 9 Oscar nominations, but it only won 2, and it was for, like, sound editing and sound mixing, I believe, which makes sense. But there were some crazy movies that year that it was up against, like, we had Mr. Holland's Opus, we had, Nick Cage won his Oscar for Leaving Las Vegas, we had, Nixon starring so another true story, a big
Mm-hmm.
movie, Dead Man Walking, 12 Monkeys with Brad Pitt, Rob Roy, Casino, Bridges of Madison County, Sense and Sensibility. We had all these big Batman Forever, Braveheart was up for some Oscars and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
just a lot of stuff was coming out that same year as Apollo 13. So I think it's still well received over the years, but I think it kind of gets buried beneath so many movies that came out in like that 94 to 98 range.
Mm-hmm.
So we just forget how, well made it was. But yeah, it's a really, really great movie. Based on a true story, obviously. The one of the surviving astronauts actually came here to OKC last year. The one that Bill Paxton played.
Wow.
And I wasn't able to make it out to our museum, our science museum, because he was doing like a speech and signing his book that came out and stuff. And I really wish I would have made it out there because that would have been pretty cool to meet like an astronaut who was like part of
Mm-hmm.
something crazy in history. But yeah, it's just it's still has relevance. I mean, people love space. That's why Project Hail Mary is so everybody's so excited to see that movie, and it's getting rave reviews. We like stuff that we don't know a lot about, and we want to search for the answers to a lot of things. I think Apollo 13, though it's not fantasy wise sci-fi, it's important in science fiction. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right. I want to ask you real quick something. How was the experience watching it on theaters though? Because now that I think about it, in theaters, it was probably this epic thing, right? Like watching in the big screen, like them going through space.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like especially when the issues start happening. Like I remember how loud it was, like, when you're a kid and you're in a theater, like, everything's so big already, so you're in the theater, and then that was, like, right around the time they started doing I think that's when they started doing, like, the Dolby surround sound stuff, and they used to play the THX, thing like they did on the physical media stuff. They used to play that at the theaters, like, before, so they'd do that loud noise build up, and I remember being a kid and, like, you would always look forward because you're like, "Oh, the movie's about to start" because they just played the thing. But yeah, like the when the space shuttle like bursts into everything, and just some of the action sequences, I just remember it being like really loud as a kid and kind of jarring, but that it held our attention better. So, but I paid more attention when that happened. So.
Last year they did an IMAX showing. We didn't get to make it out. We bought tickets and then we had stuff come up, so we couldn't make it. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen it in IMAX because I think, to your point, I think it would have had even a bigger effect than just watching it at home. You know, that sort of a thing.
For sure.
But Jorge, you said something interesting, which was you weren't as entertained with the movie, but it doesn't mean it's not good. So as a director, like what sort of things stood out to you on Ron Howard's directing in the film that make you say something like that?
I think that he's a very good he's a genius when it comes to telling stories about love in the family environment, which is what all these three movies have in common. That's what I was trying to find something in common, how they're about love ultimately because they're doing, they're going after certain things because of love. And Ron Howard is really good at that and at conflict. So the other thing that I really enjoyed aside from it, I know I said it was a little boring, but what I really enjoyed is that they really tell it like it is. Like, I think the reason why they were taking so long to figure out how to bring him back is because in reality, we're only prepared to like tell family members of their family, died, as opposed to like Interstellar and The Martian, because it's fiction, they're able to save them. Like there's at the end, it's still conflict, but the conflict becomes easier to solve because it's like they'll just make some fake math and some fake traveling, and they'll pick up the fake person at the fake planet, and bring him back to the fake Earth, right? But this is based on story, so that's what I love too. Which is why I think it works. At the end of the day, because I watched all of it, I watched it fully. There was just some moments that I was like, I got a little distracted. But overall, Ron Howard is really good at creating those moments of love within family and the conflict.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the really cool devices I liked was when Tom Hanks' character went out he was in the backyard and he did his thumb at the moon and kind of covered the moon up, and then when he's on the ship, he does the same thing to Earth. I thought that was a cool like kind of bookend or like kind of parallel between the places that he's at and how wild that would be to be in space and do that. One of the things I wanted to ask you too was like. You mentioned on our interview that you just love space. So what is it about space that intrigues you so much?
I think the unknown. Let's say when you travel and you go to a new country or a new city, you're curious about wanting to know like the ins and outs of it. Um, I don't know why. Like for instance, like I'm just obsessed with the idea that maybe there's like evil out there, and if we find it, we're probably gonna regret it. But something about it is
Yeah.
just interesting, and also the fact that it's so unattainable. Like, look, I'm about to say something that's probably gonna be very controversial, and I don't necessarily believe it this way, but like we know the space exists because there's books about it, right? And we know the moon exists and like all these planets exist because they're in books, and I believe books, and I believe everything they tell us. But there's also like a 1% part of me that's like, well, what's really out there? Like, what, because I have no access to going out there, and then people will be like, well, yeah, you do, because you can achieve anything you want. I'm like, at 30 seconds, I don't think I can be an astronaut. Like, it's not viable. Like, so I'll never know, but I choose to have that 99% belief that all of
Sure.
this
Yeah.
exists, right? So that 1% is like that thing that always catches me when I'm walking my dogs at night and I'm looking up. I'm like, listen, if you exist, just take me with you. My family's
Right.
gonna be okay. Take me to all over space. I want to explore, right? Abduct me. But but that's just like the insane part of me, like the
hmm
delusional part of me, because I think it's very interesting. Like, wouldn't you be like shocked if you were able to see the rings of Saturn and like
Right.
wouldn't it be
In
so
person.
cool? Like,
hmm
yeah, I remember a couple years ago during COVID, it got so close to Earth that we were able to see it with like our cameras and our telescopes. I had my iPhone, I was pointing at it, and I could see it. I was like, "This is cool." I was like, so
hmm
imagine in person. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, I had an astronomy class in college in Colorado before I moved here, and one of our teachers, he like retired, and then he came back part time as a professor. He had like the Area 51 like credentials, and he had like the blueprint of Area 51. He brought it to class one day, and he brought this like telescope that we could like see into the sky like really really well. And like he probably wasn't supposed to bring that to class, but it's just very fascinating, like what I mean, the endless possibilities that are out there that we just don't know because we don't have access to the stuff we need, or it's just hasn't been invented to where we can even make that happen. So it's fascinating.
One of the things I wanted to mention too, I felt like there was some really cool and interesting camera movements in the film. Some like in Houston, there's like a move up and then the camera goes like, so I just thought it was really cool. There was it could have just been shot very statically, but they did have some cool movements there. Um, yeah. Oh, did you have something else?
No.
Um, I think the last thing that kind of intrigued me was that part of the true story is that the damage that had been done to the ship had been done 2 years prior to them even taking off. And so it's just kind of nerve-wracking. I can't imagine the next group that went out there like to trust that the equipment was going to work. But it's also something that you learn. Like they learn from those mistakes and they make sure they test those multiple times. And so, but to have the courage and the guts to like put yourself on a rocket and
Yeah.
go. I mean, just really
Well, and
crazy.
if you look, I don't know what the statistic is, but if you look back in history at most of the launches, it's not a high success rate. Even like the ones that don't have people aboard.
hmm
Um, like they're trying to get this plane to work to take people to space. And I think it just keeps getting stalled because the planes are they're not lasting on the test run. So, yeah, just imagine. I mean, the statistics aren't very high. So it's like if you did make it into space, even Apollo 13, like they got up there and then had the issues and then they made it work to come back. But yeah, I can't imagine the anxiety of just, especially being in space. You don't know
hmm
if you're going to even get it. Might not even get back to Earth. And if you do, you might not survive trying to get back to Earth. So it's kind of nuts.
This reminds me, I was just in San Francisco 2 weeks ago for my book tour, and my flight got delayed like 2 hours because uh, there was something wrong with the engine, and they were fixing it.
Okay.
And I was like, so then I was like, okay, well, great, they're gonna fix it. But then it made me think, wait, so when did they find out the engine had something wrong? When it was coming back from San Francisco to LA, and then when I get on the plane, how do they know that the engine's gonna be okay? Like, because you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, when did the engine break? Like, when they landed here, or was it broken on the way? Because it's the same flight that they
Right.
use to go back and forth, right? So
Yep.
when I got on that flight, and then I was really nervous the whole time because I was like, oh God, I was like, how do I know? Like, I had all these questions, but then I didn't want to ask because I don't want to put like on the flight risk or whatever because they'll think I'm crazy. But it's like I had all these questions. When did the engine break, and when did you decide you could fix it now so that I can take the flight now,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So it
I
reminded me of
know.
that.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, a couple years ago, my family and I, we went to Florida. My parents, I grew up in Florida. My parents still live there, and we went down to the NASA Space Center in Kennedy Space Center down kind of near Orlando. And we got to kind of take the tour and go around to all the launch pads, and they were talking a lot about the SpaceX mission that they're trying to go back to the moon and land on the moon again. So that's going to be called the Artemis 3. It's planned to be around 2028 is when we're going to try to land on the moon again with a human. They're looking for a uncrewed demo landing to start in 2027.
I thought they were supposed to send it in February, and then they didn't. So they were gonna do it on March 14th.
Oh, is that it's coming up that soon?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
because it was
Wow.
Nice.
it was supposed to be on February 8th, just the one without astronauts on it, just to
Mhm.
go orbit the moon.
Yes, orbit. I think this
right.
one's gonna land. So the
Got it.
2027 one's
Right, you did say that. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's exciting. I can't wait.
Yeah, that's
it's one of those things like there's like when you were saying that 1%, I have the 1% also. I do. Like there's parts of me like no matter what it is, like I mean, I believe that we landed on the moon,
Me
but
too.
it does look really, really like Stanley Kubrick made it look really realistic too, and that was not real.
Yeah.
But I think the naysayers all kind of say it didn't happen, but I think it'll be cool to kind of go back and be able to say we were alive when we landed on the moon for a second time.
I can't wait to see that again on TV, because I'm sure they're gonna stream it.
Well, that does remind me too that by Apollo 13, audiences didn't care that we were going to the moon again. Oh, just another moon landing. Like,
yeah.
are we going to be that same way? We're like, oh, this isn't cool enough. We better go somewhere.
I mean, probably people, but it's a cool thing, I mean, a couple years ago, there was a program that was sending normal people to space. I mean, the last one was Katy Perry and some. But
yeah.
I actually had applied to that, and I made it to the very, very final. Like, I made it.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, I did, but I didn't make it. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, but it was one of those things where like I was really like I was like fighting for it. I was ready to submit to everything. I was like because the training was in I think it's in Dallas or something. I don't remember, but you had to go live for like 8 months, and I'm like I was like send me. I was like I won't make movies for like 3 to 3 years. Send me to space, but it didn't happen.
Very cool. Well, let's go ahead and jump to the second movie. This one's The Martian, starring Matt Damon. And this one was also written by the same author as Project Hail Mary. It's very sciencey. I just really enjoyed this movie. But Jorge, why don't you share a little bit about The Martian?
I mean, here are my notes. This is what I wrote. The Martian might be the most emotionally stable survival film I've ever seen because he doesn't spiral, he calculates the whole time. And, that shows psychological awareness as opposed to like Apollo 13. Apollo 13 is comforting because it shows institutions working in today's world, almost feels nostalgic, but people lose their shit. So it's like, it's not very, so I like them. I like watching The Martian whenever like I want to just have a like feel good movie because I know that at the end of the day he does everything in his power to survive. It's the science that makes it very personal, humor as a coping mechanism, and it's very problem solving as character development. Sorry, I wrote notes like a professor, by the way, because I was like,
that's great. Yeah,
I love it.
Perfect.
I like it a lot. And again, the theme of love, everybody decides to go back to get him, because it's the right thing to do, which nowadays I don't think that would ever happen. Like if somebody gets left in Mars, it's like, damn, like
sorry.
All right, buddy.
Yeah,
sorry, buddy.
Yeah, no, you're on your own. Yeah.
I thought the way that they got to that solution was pretty fun. Like I thought because I remember in the theater seeing Donald Glover show up for the first time, and I didn't even know he was in the movie. And so I thought it was just going to be like a cameo. And no, he's the guy that actually solves the issue. And I thought that was cool. I thought Jeff Daniels did a great job as being like that kind of calculating businessman. I got the politician type thing, where I just have to try and keep the world, together. We have to keep our funding, so I can't make too rash a decision. Like I just thought all that was really well done. I thought that China came in to support and offered their ship to help them get the supplies up to the ship as it was flying by. I thought that was kind of a cool feel good of like when space is the final frontier or whatever. Like it brings all of humanity together when we're trying to save a human, because it's not us fighting against each other, it's us trying to help each other. So in Apollo 13, it was like, how long is it going to take you to prep that? 3 hours. You have 20 minutes, and then in this one, it's like, how long is it going to take you to prep that? He's like, 12 minutes. I was like, times have changed from like the technology or whatever. I thought the fact that like it just showed enormity of and the unpredictability of being in space because he's on Mars. It's not like storms here. One storm destroys the entire mission, not just risks his life, but like even if he had gotten off with everybody else and there was no the Martian rest of the story, like it's still like billions of dollars that got wasted just because of a natural disaster, not anything that was in their control. So that's kind of wild too. But I think the science aspect of this and the problem solving, it's kind of like he didn't let himself get to that crazy space of like getting too emotional. He had to try and that was how he coped. He kind of even said that in the film.
One person who worked on it, who also wrote for Project Hail Mary, was Drew Goddard, who I'm a huge fan of. He's a great writer. I mean, he's worked on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, Alias, Lost. He wrote Cloverfield, He wrote and directed Cabin in the Woods, which is one of my favorite horror movies. Just such a fun movie. He did World War Z, and then he obviously did. He also wrote and directed Bad Times at the El Royale. And then one of my favorite things he's ever worked on is Daredevil, the TV series, because I think that's one of the. I'm a huge Daredevil fan, but I think that's one of the best Marvel TV shows that has ever been made. The original one. The newer one's good, but like the first series that came out. So yeah, Drew Goddard, just super talented writer. He got an Oscar nomination for The Martian, for adapting the screenplay. But yeah, it's a really good movie. It keeps, for being slow at times, like it keeps your attention almost the entire movie because you want to find out, especially if it's your first time watching it, you want to find out what is going to happen, and it kind of keeps you anxious at most, like at least over half the movie. Like you're like, oh god, now this happened, so what is he gonna do, or what are the people gonna do to try to solve this? And it becomes like a mystery almost, so it's kind of crazy. But Matt Damon was nominated for his performance. Tremendous performance. I mean, he's done so many iconic roles already in his career. I think he's only been nominated twice for Best Actor, and this was one of them. So, really cool. But yeah, it's a great film. Like Jorge said, I mean, the heart in it that drives the movie, it just keeps you wanting more from this film. Great supporting cast. I mean, so many legends on the supporting cast. We didn't even talk about like Jessica Chastain and
Kate Mara,
not Rooney
Kristen
Mara.
Wiig. Yeah, Kate Mara.
Kristen Wiig, Kate Mara. Yeah. So I mean, just a ton. What's his name? Ejiofor.
Chiwetel
Ejiofor. Benedict Wong.
Yep.
Yeah, just so many talented people. Sean Bean. And he doesn't die.
He doesn't die in this one.
Sean Bean always dies.
But so, they did throw in the Lord of the Rings joke.
Yeah.
In the scene that he's in. I had that written down, the Council of Elrond, because they're
okay.
So
I missed that part.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a great film. It was nominated for 7 Academy Awards. It didn't win any, unfortunately, but there was some really good movies that year. Still, nonetheless, it's a fantastic movie. If our listeners have not seen it, definitely check it out, especially before you go see Project Hail Mary, because it's done by the same creative team, which is cool. So.
Yeah, absolutely. One note I put: Jason Bourne is the only one that can make botany cool. I thought that it was cool. Like he made it cool. Like his delivery of all the jokes, the humor in the film was so great, and I think a lot of that just had to do with the way he delivered it. The script is there, like the lines are there in the book, but if you have the wrong person delivering the line, it doesn't work. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say also, we didn't even mention the director, Ridley Scott. I mean, that dude's a legend. And he had kind of not been recognized for his work. He'd done a ton of stuff in between, his last like heavily nominated film to this one. But he just didn't. I remember me personally, like I've always loved Ridley Scott, but I didn't really hear his name a ton in that span of time. So when The Martian came out, like it was getting all these rave reviews, and then I was like, oh, Ridley Scott did it. It's about time, he got some recognition finally again. So I love that he directed it, of all people. So that's pretty cool.
Absolutely. One of the other things I wanted to mention too about Apollo 13 and this one is the ensemble cast. Is that like I just found it very interesting in Apollo 13. There were so many people in that film that I just thought were just going to be an extra, a person just there as a body, a warm body, and then all of a sudden they would have like 3 or 4 lines with some of the main cast. And I was like, to navigate that and to give all of those speaking parts around. And I think The Martian is another example of that too, where there are so many different pieces to the movie and to the story, and there's all of these folks that get to kind of have their moment to shine.
Yeah.
So
I
any
will say this
yeah,
though, if you may, one thing about The Martian is that even though you have this amazing ensemble, you kind of forget about them the whole time because Matt Damon is so good.
right.
He's so good that
Mhm.
you almost become it just becomes a journey between him and yourself when you're watching the movie, right? So that's one of the things that and I mentioned this because he's also in Interstellar, and also Jessica Chastain's
Mhm.
in Interstellar,
Yeah.
and that changes completely in Interstellar.
Mhm.
So we'll get to that right now when we get to it. But I just wanted to say that because even for like Apollo 13, yeah, you have a bunch of great actors, but I still feel like the weight of it wasn't enough to not make it so slow, if that makes sense. I think it might have actually harmed it in a bit, but that's just my opinion.
Well, and if you think about it, like, none of the main cast got Oscar nominations. The one who did get an Oscar nomination for his performance in Apollo 13 was Ed Harris, who's you would think is more of like a side character. But since he's the main one they're talking to
Yeah.
back at the station, like he becomes a main focal point. So like, yeah, it's just that was very well said because yeah, Matt Damon is pretty much on the screen the whole time. But yeah, we have this huge ensemble cast, and you're just focused on Matt Damon because he's where the issue lies. So
Yeah.
you're just hoping that he like gets through it and figures it out. So
I do have 3 copies of The Martian. I bought the Blu-ray. I also have it on digital, and then they ran a special for the extended edition on digital, and so I bought that too. So I watched the extended edition for this one, which I can tell there were a couple of spots where I hadn't remembered, and I figured it was just like scenes that they needed to cut for time. And it wasn't necessarily needed, but I like wanted the experience. I wanted to go as all in as I could. Um, but I'm with you, Josh, about the intensity. Like I found myself like I just put a note here. I'm so tense because it's just like 45 minutes straight of just like what's going to happen. You're
yeah.
just like waiting and waiting. Like I said, I really just love he figured out how to now whether this could really happen or not. I would assume that this author really studied up on some of this stuff and like some of this is probably as real as you can get even
Mhm.
if it's just theoretical. And so that's just kind of it's a fun kind of journey into something that's science fiction, but not it's leaning more in the science. I think in the way that he tells the story. So very cool. Well, you brought it up, Jorge. Interstellar. It's your favorite film of all time. Let's hear what do you have to say about Interstellar?
uh, I mean, I have a lot to say. You know, I think that the first thing I learned from it when I watched it was that it's less about space and it's more about time. And not only just like physical time, but also metaphorical time as well. If you think about it, um, and then as I kept, because I've seen it a lot of times. I'm not even gonna tell you how many, because I've seen it a lot of times. It's one of those films that I just play, when I'm doing chores, when I'm writing, when I'm depressed or bored or happy, whatever. It doesn't. I don't need like a specific reason. I can just watch it. I can sit and watch it. And then I realized watching it more and more is that the real antagonist is the separation. I think that that's really what carries the film. It's about legacy. I wrote here, Interstellar isn't about leaving Earth. It's about whether love can outlast time. And we see that because like everybody starts living different time frames, but the love's still the same, right? And that's really what I love about it. I love that. I love it also because I love Ellen Burstyn. I think she's amazing. I had a Zoom meeting with her once, and it was amazing. So I was like,
Wow.
it's like, she to me, she's in one of the the most, like, I don't know. I just love her. I love her so much. I would love to work with her one day. But aside from that, I also love that it feels real. It feels like a real film. I got to see it. I didn't get to see it the first time it came out in theaters, and I got to see it last year for their anniversary in IMAX, and I was just blown away. My husband came with me. I was blown away. I cried. I felt every single thing that I didn't experience while watching it on TV. So I love it, and everybody should watch it. I think they should show it in schools as well because it's really
For
good.
sure.
Yeah. One of the things that stands out to me about Interstellar is speaking to the science of it, is that they built the black hole. And I remember hearing stories where they had a scientist come in, and help them as like a consultant on the film. And he said it was the first time anybody's ever seen a black hole, because they just built it, like all the science of it. Nobody's seen one in real life, but it ended up being as accurate as it could be.
Yeah.
And now since then we've seen one. We've been able to see one, and it is exactly the way that it was in Interstellar. Neil deGrasse Tyson talks about it, and then I think he was interviewing the scientist that was the consultant on the film, and how mind-boggling it is that Chris Nolan wanted it to be as scientifically accurate as possible, and got it right. It's just crazy. I had seen the film when I was, when it first came out, and then we rewatched it 2 years ago, and I'm just like bawling like a baby, like for the second half of the film. I think it's just one of those kind of fathers, leaving their kids, and being out of their control, and the loss of time, the loss of that relationship, and how it hurt the relationship of the siblings on Earth and all that stuff. It's just crazy. And then there's some great moments when it's like, the space station that they're staying at is named with his last name or whatever, but it's like, oh no, that's named after her, not you, buddy.
Right.
I thought that was great. Josh, I don't want to take up any more of it, because you have plenty of things to say about it too.
You're
But
good.
what do you have on Interstellar?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like Jorge, I didn't see it right away. I don't actually think I got to go to see it in the theaters, even though at the time I was a huge Nolan fan. I mean, he had just come off a few years before that from The Dark Knight, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. But um, I don't know why. I mean, I was even working at the video store when that came out. I don't know why I didn't make it to the theaters the first time, but my friend had a really nice theater set up at his house, and when it came out to rent, the new releases, we rented it and watched it. And I mean, even watching it on a smaller screen, I still was captivated. I mean, it's just so beautifully shot. Nolan's so good at. I mean, even if you don't like the story or you don't get it, kind of like Tenet. Like Tenet is a very confusing film, but it still looks so awesome. Like it's just such a cool movie. Interstellar is that way, and it's a very important film. I mean, IMDb, it's number 18 on their top 250 movies of all time, which is, I mean, it's broke the top 20, which is crazy. And it's just a very pivotal movie. I think people go back to it, especially filmmakers that are just starting out. It's kind of a too big of a movie to like for people to start out with something on that level. But I think it has so many layers to it and so much cool, innovative stuff that Nolan has introduced us to. That I think it is a good, like Jorge said, maybe introduce it in maybe not the younger schools, but like college courses for sure. I'm sure they like put it in their especially like film schools and stuff. Like it's got to be up there because I mean all the inventive ways they did practical effects and just filming in Iceland and just making it as real as what their vision was to doing it. I watched an interview recently that came out a couple weeks ago with McConaughey and Timothy Chalamet, who Timothy was in that, and I think a lot of people forget he was the son in that. And now he's, gigantic, and it's funny to go back and be like, oh my God, Timothy was in that huge Nolan movie and we didn't even remember that. Timothy asked McConaughey how many times he'd seen Interstellar, And he said McConaughey said he has only seen it like one time, and
Mm-hmm.
Timothy thought he was lying. He's like, "You've seen it more than that. Come on." And he's like, "No, really, I've only seen it like one time."
Probably the
Which
premiere.
is which is weird to say because I mean, like McConaughey, I know he's not obsessed with his work, but like, he'll tell people, I mean, he teaches a class at University of Texas for film and stuff. So, like he'll tell people like, I love this performance. I don't like this or whatever. So I just thought it was weird that he would say that he hasn't really seen Interstellar, which is
And
now at probably one of his most beloved films that he's been in, overall, just because so many people love that film. I still think his greatest performance was season 1 of True Detective. I still think that's one of the greatest,
yeah.
for sure, television performances of all time. I mean, I've watched that season so many times in him, and I mean, even Woody Harrelson's really good, but McConaughey made one of the greatest performances I've ever seen. It's very dark, but super good. But he's really good in Interstellar. Another awesome ensemble. I mean, Nolan, I know he reuses people, but like obviously it works
Mm-hmm.
for a reason. He gets all these Oscar nominated and Oscar winning performers, and they all work. They know exactly what to do. Just a couple of fun facts about the movie. The cornfield, the giant cornfield, Christopher Nolan, and they actually grew that whole, it was like 500 or 350 acres or something of corn, that they grew it on their, like they grew it first, filmed the scene, and then they sold all of it so that it didn't go to waste. So they like fed people and sold it and stuff, which is cool. But that's insane, like that gigantic cornfield. And then Hans Zimmer gave us that
Yeah.
beautiful piece of music that's one of my wife's favorite songs, is the cornfield chase or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a beautiful film. It's very deep, but I think most people that watch movies a lot, like you can watch it a couple times and you kind of get what all the behind the deeper meanings are and stuff. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's awesome, and obviously it made the top 20 for the 250 films on IMDb, which is a huge deal. So, Nolan is the man, and he'll just continue. I can't wait for the Odyssey later this year, but Interstellar is definitely high up on his list of like pretty strong powerhouse movies. So it's a good one.
Absolutely. Anything from your perspective, Jorge, on like the direction or any of the production that you want to comment on that hits you?
So this is one of those directors that I did not know who he was until I watched Interstellar, like that we talked about in my interview.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know who Christopher Nolan was. I was not interested in action. Like I wasn't interested in like this big like motion pictures like until I watched Interstellar, and then I was like, oh my god, he did Memento a long time ago. I was like, I had seen that. I had seen that years ago. I was like, wow. I was like, that's amazing. Of course, then Dark Knight and a bunch of other ones that he's done, and I became a fan. I mean, I became a fan, of him immediately. I think that everything he does is amazing. Especially, he's one of those directors that can do big scale movies, and I think that's why I like Interstellar a lot because he can do it, but it doesn't feel forced. Like I won't mention other directors, but like there's other directors that do big movies like him, and they just feel forced. One in particular, and I love it. I love that the score it's playing with time. I like that. I like that everybody fits well in their performance. That's one of the things too that sometimes some movies miscast, but like even people like they do. And this film is just beautiful. I like it. I like how it feels like an actual movie and not like Gravity. I love Gravity,
Okay.
by the way. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
Gravity's one of my favorite films too. But Gravity doesn't feel like a movie. It feels like a documentary. And that's what makes it good as well. But I just like the journey of it. I like the journey. I like the father and daughter movie. I'm sorry, not movie. Relationship, and how he's leaving Earth to like save Earth for their kids, but she's like trying to save Earth to have her father back, right?
Right.
And it's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wild. I think one of the other pieces that I find interesting too is the Anne Hathaway character and her faith, how her faith plays into her science, and that they held those great conversations around what is faith and what is what is the purpose of faith when it feels like the world is falling apart and all that stuff. I do think, like, again, kind of going a little bit back to the science, because I think in that same interview, the consultant was talking about how they built that. That they, I mean, it was practical effects. It was the room that he's playing in at the end with all of the different pieces of time. Like they built it like it would be like what it would look like for a 3-dimensional space that's in 5 dimensions or whatever. It's just like I don't understand all that, the cube or whatever. But pretty insane.
But there's a library in Mexico that it was inspired by. It's a huge library in Mexico.
Wow.
I forgot the name, but I'm gonna look it up and send you guys the link.
Yeah, definitely.
When you walk into it, it looks like it's an well, that's where it was inspired. Like the way
Okay.
you know how it's like all these squares and shapes. Let me go look it up now.
It's awesome.
We also we didn't even talk about who's doing Project Hail Mary. Lord and Miller, who are big fan favorites in the movie world. Mostly do a lot of comedies and stuff, but they have a way of intertwining comedy and drama and a good movie that captures your attention really well. And they get a lot of praise for their animated movies. Actually, like they did Lego Movie, and then they also produced Into the Spider-Verse, which both of those movies are regarded as some of the best animated movies. Cloudy with the Chance of Meatballs, they also did. They did both 21 Jump Street and 22 Jump Street with Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum. They did Brooklyn Nine-Nine. They did a couple episodes of that. And then a TV series that I really loved called Last Man on Earth with Will Forte. Yeah, and I loved that show so much. I was so sad when it got canceled. But another tie-in to Apollo 13 is they were originally directing Solo, a Star Wars story, and they left the project, and Ron Howard actually replaced them for Solo, a Star Wars story. So comes full circle with the space movies.
Nice. Were you able to find that library?
Yeah, I sent you guys a link on the chat. Cool. If you guys want to click on it, it's a little video on Instagram. It's and they even mentioned a little bit like it's feeling of the 5th dimension. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful library in Mexico City. It's called Vasconcelos Library.
Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely link that in the notes of the show, and then probably try and share it also the week we drop this to our audience. Very cool, man.
That's really, I just looked it up. That's really cool.
It's cool, right? Yeah. It looks like the 5th dimension. Yeah.
Nice.
But guys, I have 2 minutes left, and I didn't want to just log off like in 2 minutes. I just want to say thank you so much for having me. Watching these movies back to back to be prepared for this reminded me a lot of how much I actually love space movies, and some of my favorites are Gravity, also in Arrival. If you guys ever those, let me know.
Well, I love both those movies as well.
Definitely.
Because they're all also about survival. So let me know. But thank you. I'm here for whenever you guys need me for whatever. I love
awesome. Always
about movies.
You're always welcome.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah,
thanks, Jorge.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to jump over to our website, moviesthatmakeyoupodcast.com, see all of our links. Follow us on Instagram so you never miss an episode, a live stream, or an interview. And until next time, keep watching movies.